Greetings, fellow scribes! Welcome back to the archive. This week, I continue my discussion on Dune, Adventures in the Imperium, by talking about the 2D20 system, the in-house system used by Modiphius. A number of their games use this system. Also, before I continue, let me just mention and give a general reminder that I do have a Twitter where I post news updates about the channel, and I have a Patreon and Ko-fi, or Coffee, however you want to call it, with links in the description below if you want us to help support the channel. So with that said, sit back, relax, and enjoy as we talk about what makes Dune tick. So on the surface, Dune has a very straightforward system. You have a skill and a drive. And you total these up. This determines your base difficulty. If you have a focus that relates to the specific thing you're doing, then you get a critical success if the die result is your skill or under. Otherwise, it's a critical success if you roll a 1, because this is a roll low system. Your target number is, of course, the total of your skill and drive, so if you roll lower than that, you get 1 success. However, here's where the system gets a bit interesting. The skills aren't what you would normally think of as skills. The skills are battle, communication, discipline, move, and understand. The drives, which are sort of your attributes, again, aren't what you normally think of as attributes. They are duty, faith, justice, power, and truth. So, how do you determine what you're going to use? Well, guess what? That's what role-playing is for. But ultimately, it works sort of like this. Say you are driving a vehicle. You could justify move, but let's say you're driving that vehicle through a battlefield. Well, you could use battle, or you could use discipline as you're trying to ignore all the distractions and focus on driving safely. Okay, what's the drive? What drive are you using? Well, if you're in combat, it could be power, because you're a powerful vehicle. It could also be duty, because it's your duty to get that vehicle from one place to another. Or any other justification you can think of. Truth? Finding the correct way. It really just depends on how you want to spin it. But, okay, so that is how you determine your target number. The attribute and, the drive and the skill. And of course, your focuses, help improve your odds of a critical success. Now we get into difficulty. Most things you just need 1 success. And that's it. That's all you need. But some things you might need 2, 3, 4, even 5 successes. Now, your base roll is 2d20. So, with critical successes on 2d20, if you got critical successes on both dice on 2d20, you'd still only have 4 successes. So, how do you get that? How do you get a 5th success if the difficulty is 5 or, heaven forbid, higher? Momentum. Now, momentum can be used to power certain talents, certain special abilities, but its most basic use is if you spend 1 momentum, you gain 1 extra die. If you spend 3 momentum, you gain 2 extra die. If you spend 6, the maximum that can be stored at any one time, you can get yourself 3 extra dice. Now, how do you get momentum? You get more successes than you need. And then you can spend those momentum successes to improve the result, or you can bank them. You can store them to use for things like getting more dice in the next test. And that is pretty much the core of the system. It is actually a very straightforward system. I really like that. But that's just the basics of the system. Things get a little bit more interesting. First off, there's this concept in it of success, but with complications. And that's just what it sounds like. It could be a case of, let's go back to the driving through a battlefield. You're able to safely navigate the battlefield, but your vehicle's damaged. Not damaged as in shot up type damage, but like systems in it aren't going to necessarily work the way they should. This can be a long-term issue. But, it's something you're dealing with. At the same time, momentum has more options than just adding dice. Yes, you can buy more d20s with it. You can also create a trait for a battlefield or a scene. You can use it to obtain information. Or you can use it to give someone a bonus called creating an assist. And then there's the Game Master's version of momentum. It's called threat. Now, it can be added to simply by the area being dangerous. It can be added to by NPCs gaining momentum. It can also be added to by players choosing to give the GM threat in exchange for extra d20s. There's a few other ways, but those are like the most notable ones. And threat can be spent in many ways like momentum. It can also be used to increase the difficulty. And things like that. Like, say you're dealing with something that has a set difficulty, like picking a lock, and the GM has some threat. Well, the GM can make picking that lock more difficult. Justifications can be things like, the lock. Where the lock is, you can't hear anything correctly. Or background noises muffling it. Things like that. Because that fits into the perilous environment type things. And that's really kind of the core of the system. The basics of it that you need to get a taste for how it works. Yes, there's a lot more. I mean, it wouldn't be a good RPG if it didn't have complications, but this is sort of the core of it, the heart of it. Everything else in here just kind of adds on to this. So with that said, next week I'm going to talk about character and house creation. Yes, these are actually things that you do. You create your house. And a little bit over character advancement, which is quite possibly the most simple and straightforward advancement system I have ever seen. So until next time, I'd like you all to remember to have fun and keep gaming.